man. Yes, sir, yes, sir, yes, sir. So, what is up, everybody? Welcome to the show. It's been a long time since being on the microphone, and the Philadelphia Eagles offseason has begun. Listen, I'm hearing a lot of talk about trading A.J. Brown because of his, really, really bad season. I'm telling you all that's a mistake. Don't do it. Don't trade A.J. Brown. That is a bad idea for the Philadelphia Eagles at this moment. For plenty of reasons, one being the new offensive coordinator and the coaching staff that's being brought in. Also, speaking of coaching staff, shout out to Mike Pellegrino from Connecticut High School. Brought the Long Island Championship to Connecticut High School, my high school. So shout out to you, Mike Pellegrino. Congratulations on becoming the defensive backs coach in Philadelphia. Kudos to you. I digress. So, all the coaching staff changes on the offensive side. The Dallas Goedert situation looking a little bit weird in terms of what to do with the contract. What's it going to look like down the road? Do you re-sign him? Do you let him go? He had to take a pay cut this year because the Philadelphia Eagles didn't want to pay him massive money, secondary to injuries. And you got a draft that's got a lot of good tight ends here. So, to me, if you're the Eagles and you're making all this change on the coaching staff and you probably are thinking about getting rid of Dallas Goedert, what sense does it make to actually get rid of A.J. Brown? To me, it doesn't. It doesn't make your team better. It doesn't make your quarterback better. Quite frankly, the grass isn't always greener on the other side for A.J. Brown, and he loves it in Philly. In terms of the city, the community, all that stuff, he it's home to him, okay? And say what you want about the relationship between AJ and Jalen Hurts. They are godfathers to each other. I mean, like there is still a relationship there. While it's not necessarily the best professionally, I understand that. There's still a personal one that's there where they have a lot of love for each other, okay? So in that sense, we can't just dismiss the idea or just say, yeah, let's get rid of A.J. Brown. I mean, think about all the great quarterbacks in the league that have gotten rid of great wide receivers in their career. Doesn't necessarily help them out per se. The only one that can win without a great wide receiver is Patrick Mahomes, and he's the top 5 greatest quarterbacks of all time. Like, you got rid of Stephon Diggs for Josh Allen, didn't work out for him. You got rid of Devontae Adams with Aaron Rodgers, didn't work out for him. You got rid of, what was it for earlier on in Dak's career? He didn't have a wide receiver one, and then they brought in Amari Cooper, helped his career out. So getting rid of great wide receiver, Tyreek Hill and Mahomes, like I said, was the only one that worked. Getting rid of wide receivers for a quarterback a lot of the times doesn't help them. And it's funny because of all the people that'll tell you, like, hey, yes, it may clear up the rotation per se and the offense, and yes, to just throw it to the open guy, etc. All of those same people will look at teams and say, wow, they could really use a guy on the outside, couldn't they? Couldn't they use a guy just to be able to get open against a defense, a one-on-one situation, just to be able to throw the ball to them? I mean, look at what Dallas did this season with George Pickens. Came in, completely changed their offense, became a number 1 offense. Yes, they had CeeDee Lamb. They virtually had no running game until Javonte Williams had a resurgence in his career. Brian Schottenheimer in that offense really took off once George Pickens became the guy who, wow, you have 2 number 1s. Again, it's easier said than done to get rid of a player like A.J. Brown. Not only that, he's 28 years old, ladies and gentlemen. We just won a Super Bowl just a couple of years ago. It's not like he's not part of winning. He's had 2 1,400-yard seasons in Philadelphia, 3 straight 1,000-yard seasons, albeit he just cracked the 1,000-yard marker this season. Again, it's not like he's a bad player. He's still a great player. He had a down year. But so did the rest of the offense. So did the rest of the coaching staff. The only thing that showed up this season was the defense. So, again, he still had, 121 targets on the season, still led the Philadelphia Eagles in target share at 27%. Like, Jalen Hurts still finds a way to get him the football because how could you not? It's A.J. Brown. So, again, I would say just Philadelphia Eagle fans, be careful what you wish for in thinking about getting rid of A.J. Brown because, quite frankly, the grass isn't always greener on the other side. We have seen in Philadelphia history the long periods of time where this organization has not gotten wide receiver right. From Terrell Owens in 2004 until a very long time, until Deshaun Jackson and Jeremy Maclin with, Sean McCoy and that offense with Andy Reid and Mike Vick. Then Chip Kelly decided, let me sell the frickin' farm. Again, we've seen years where this organization does not get wide receiver right. J.J. Arcega-Whiteside, Jalen Reagor, Quez Watkins. I mean, for a while, Travis Fulgham was our best wide receiver with Carson Wentz. I mean, for Greg Ward was our best wide receiver, who I still believe can play. I am a fan of Greg Ward, and I am a fan of Jason Avant, speaking of wide receivers in Philadelphia, but now I'm digressing from the topic. Point being is, these are not guys that you would look at and say, wow, these are premium wide receivers. They're big-time players. No, they're good guys. They're not bad players by any means per se, except Jalen Reagor and Arcega-Whiteside. They were awful. But again, this team, everybody wants to look at and say, wow, we were not winning without Nick Sirianni and Jalen Hurts in the lineup. Well, you know what? The winning didn't start happening until A.J. Brown walked into the room. He's been here for 3 seasons. 2022, 23, 4 seasons. Forgive me, 4 seasons. And in those 4 seasons, 2022, Super Bowl appearance. 2023, he had a career year. We lost in the wild card. 2024, won a Super Bowl. 2025, had a down year. So yeah, it's boom or bust with A.J. Brown. But you know what? I can also argue 2 of the last 4 years, we've been to the Super Bowl with A.J. Brown in the lineup. In 2024, last season, we didn't lose a game when AJ, Devontae, Saquon, and Jalen were in the lineup. Don't be so quick to trade AJ Brown. We're going to get into the reasons why, not only just because of AJ Brown's play, which we just discussed, but Dallas Goedert also plays a role in all of this too, that I think people are not giving enough credit to. And what that situation is going to look like in the offseason, because that plays a major role in what Philadelphia could potentially do, considering their cap hit situation. But before we do that, ladies and gentlemen, since it's been a long time, let me reintroduce you to the show. This is the Riding the Bench Eagles podcast. I am your host, Asif Badi, and like you, I am a Birds fan who talks about the Birds, only the Birds, and nothing but the Philadelphia Eagles. So please do us a favor here, help us grow this channel organically by shooting this video a thumbs up, commenting your thoughts in the comment section below, and subscribing to the channel. Also, check us out on audio platforms such as Apple Podcasts and Spotify, and leave a 5-star review, because in the end, it doesn't cost you a damn thing to go ahead and hit that subscribe button. We appreciate your support on the opposite side of the camera, on the opposite side of the airwaves. All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's talk about why it's a bad idea to get rid of A.J. Brown, because you're more likely than not going to get rid of Dallas Goedert. Now, Dallas Goedert did come off a year where he had a career high in touchdowns with 11, a big year. However, he did not play a full 17-game season. I believe he played 9 off the top of my head. He had 700 yards on the year, something along those lines. And last season, we were in contract negotiations with Dallas Goedert on him wanting to be able to get, 15, 16 million? So, what's the number that he was looking at last season? I believe they were in arguments with him about being able to take, hold on, I have the numbers here somewhere. Forgive me just a moment. It was like $14 to $18 million the man wanted. He ended up settling for, I think, 11 this year. And again, it's because the guy couldn't stay healthy. And now we're in a position where He comes off a career high year in touchdowns, and once again did not play a full season, and the offense wasn't necessarily great per se. So now everyone's looking at it and saying, yeah, do we really want to pay Dallas Goedert another $15 million per year when we have to pay Jalen Carter as well, when we have to potentially think about Jalen Hurts' contract extension, which we will talk about in another episode another time? What are we going to do with Jalen Carter, Jordan Davis? What are we going to do with Nolan Smith? What are we going to do with Reed Blankenship? What are we going to do with some of the starters on the defensive side of the ball? And then on the offensive side of the ball, what are we going to do? With the contract of, like I said, Jalen Hurts, what Saquon Barkley's contract will look like, what we're going to do down the line with some of the other guys on the roster. If some of these guys retire, maybe we bring back Dallas Goedert. But even then, I don't know what that's going to look like. So we can't pay everybody. And I know Howie Roseman's a wizard when it comes to caps and contracts and negotiations, but we can't pay everybody. And I mentioned it earlier in the episode, the new offensive coordinator and the offensive coaching staff that we're going to be running this quote unquote West Coast offense, which you're going to hear me a lot during the season call it the Midwest offense, because I don't think it's going to be fully the West Coast offense. It's going to be a little bit of a hybrid between what Sirianni wants to do and what Sean Mannion and the rest of this coaching staff wants to do. It's going to be the Midwest offense. So in this Midwest offense, there's a lot of specialties with the tight end. Think about guys in the league or teams in the league who run this offense. I mean, Cliff Kingsbury runs a similar offense. Zach Ertz was big time at tight end for them this year. Look at what the Green Bay Packers did with Tucker Kraft, a really good player, runs a similar style of offense. Kyle Shanahan, George Kittle, need I say more? Look at what Sean McVay does with the Rams. They ran 13 personnel a lot, secondary to injuries with Devontae Adams and Puka Nacua a lot of the season. But their tight end group as a whole was very productive this season. One of the better production rooms in the league. I mean, look at what Miami did. After, Tyreek Hill went down, yeah, you can look at it and say like, oh, they were just throwing to Waddle, and I believe, forgive me, who was the Darren Waller was the tight end for the Miami Dolphins. But again, a similar offense with similar designs where they involve the tight end in a quick passing game. This offense helps the tight end, yes, which is an argument for keeping Goddard. But it's also an argument to suggest that, hey, we could get a guy like David Njoku. We can get a guy like Cole Kmet. Or we could go into the draft and get a guy in the draft in a tight end, a relatively dense tight end draft, plug him in, and then let Goddard walk, which I believe is what Philadelphia is going to eventually do. I think they're going to let Dallas Goedert walk and test the free agent market. Now, the problem with that is he's going to be hitting the open market, and if he signs with the team, he's going to hit us with a $21 million cap hit, something like that, 20 and a half. If he signs with another team, that's a big chunk of change just for a guy who is going to be on another team. So if the argument is that it's going to save you money to keep him on the roster, you're probably right, and that's maybe something that they'll do. But I have a belief, and my contention on this is that they're going to be doing something a little bit different because the Philadelphia Eagles do things a little differently. That June 1 post-designation signing for players is an important date for Philadelphia. I believe what they're going to do, and this is, again, me just speculating. I have no sources on this. I'm not a reporter. I am just spewing thought here, okay? What I believe they will do, and in the minimal research that I've done about the salary cap here and how it works with all these trade dead years and void years that Philadelphia does, the chicken's got to come home to roost at some point. So the Philadelphia Eagles, what they will do and what they've done with Fletcher Cox and Jason Kelce in the past is They'll wait to sign a contract with Dallas Goedert until the June 1 post designation deadline. They'll sign a contract with him right after that date. And for whatever reason, again, I don't know why that's the magical date, but for whatever reason, it helps you manipulate contracts a little bit better when you sign players after that date. Collective bargaining agreement or whatnot, maybe for free agency purposes, so that players and organizations have equal opportunity for assets in the open market. Potentially, that could be the reason. I'm not 100% sure. Point being is, though, you sign him that day, you sign him after the post June 1st deadline, and you're able to spread that $20.5 million dead cap hit over the course of a couple of years, which is a much easier pill to swallow than a one huge $20.5 million cap hit for 1 year for a player that's not going to be on your team. Now, for me, if you're going to get rid of Dallas Goedert, that's the option that I would go with. And when you're able to do that, and you're able to spread that money out, the bonuses that we've given him over the course of his career gets spread out through here and all that jazz, right? The void years that we were talking about with Howie Roseman and all that stuff. This is what the Eagles do. This is how they manipulate the cap. They use void years and they use dead money to kick the can down the road, give you big cash up front. So your cap hit every year is really low, and you're then able to manipulate and make signings on the roster and being able to manipulate contracts to such a degree where you could still retain all the talent that you have in Philadelphia and not have to pay such huge money. And they always restructure deals. They're always signing guys early. They're always doing these things to be able to manipulate and be able to say, hey, these void years down the line are not really going to hurt us if we can capture the Lombardi Trophy or we capture big-time contracts and get great value out of these players and keep them over the course of a few years. That's how they do it. It's why you're not going to see a lot of change on the offensive line with Landon Dickerson and Cam Jurgens unless some of these guys retire. It's why you're not going to see, the Jalen Hurts contract be extended for some time right now. Same with Devontae Smith. That's what they did. They caught him a year early and they gave him the extension. They did the same with A.J. Brown. They're going to probably do the same with Jordan Davis. They're going to do the same with Jalen Carter. I mean, all of these guys, the way the Eagles do business is they catch you early. They incorporate some of the void money into their situation, and they think of it like this, or maybe for, in layman's terms, how I look at it. If, let's say, you sign Dallas Goedert for a 2-year deal, it's really more like 5 years. And the void years that you have on the back end count on the contract. And then each year you extend the player, you incorporate the void money over for example, let's say he signs a 2-year deal for $20 million. Let's just give an arbitrary number. But he has another 2 or 3 years of void years. What they do basically after that is say, okay, Dallas, here, we're going to give you a big boatload of money up front. And the subsequent years we re-sign you back down the road, we're going to make your cap hit a little bit lower so that your void years come in, quote unquote, as a bonus. Then all of a sudden, they have low cap hits. You're able to sign other players. And you keep the player happy because they're still getting a boatload of money. And they got their big payday. That's how Eagles have done business for a long time. So for the situation with Dallas Goedert, I have a feeling because he's older, he's 31 years old, he's not able to play a full 17-game season. They already have tried to get rid of him in the beginning and paid him a little bit less, and he's been fighting it. They're going to say, okay, Dallas, here, test the open market. Whoever you decide to sign with, before you do so, give us that designation after June 1 so that we could spread your contract over the course of a couple of years. It benefits you because you get your $20.5 million. It benefits us because the cap hit gets spread over the last couple of years of your contract. And then you could still go to a team and get the money that they pay you. It's a win-win for both sides. And like I mentioned before, if you're going to have a tight end heavy draft, if you have players like David Njoku, Cole Kmet, and some of these other players, hell, Grant Calcaterra's on the freaking team. It ain't like Dallas Goedert blocked well this year either. And you have Johnny Wilson in the lineup too, who could probably transition to tight end, I'm sure. But if you're going to move on from this player in a tight end friendly system that Sean Mannion will hopefully bring in this Midwest offense, it wouldn't be a smart idea to do all of that and also get rid of A.J. Brown, who's your best offensive player outside of guys in the offensive line. Doesn't make sense. So, again, trading A.J. Brown is a bad idea, in my opinion. If they're going to do it, they're going to do it after June 1, obviously. But I wouldn't do it, especially if you're going to move off from Dallas Goedert, especially with this new offensive system, especially because if everybody is telling me that my quarterback, Jalen Hurts, the Philadelphia Eagles quarterback, is a limited passer, then not optimizing the roster around him is a problem, isn't it? So for all the people who say, yeah, Jalen Hurts fucking stinks, excuse my mouth, he freaking stinks. He's a bum of a quarterback after winning the damn Super Bowl for your team, albeit not the reason he's the sole catalyst of it. He's still your quarterback who got you to a Lombardi. Give it a break. If he stinks, then why get rid of the best players around him? For Josh, would you get rid of James Cook for Josh Allen? Would you get rid of Jamar Chase for Joe Burrow? Like, why would you do that? Again, unless you're Patrick Mahomes, unless you're Tom Brady, every great quarterback has a receiver that they trust and is an all-time great. You can't name me a quarterback that doesn't have an all-time great receiver. And I'm not even saying A.J. Brown's an all-time great receiver. He has that potential, yes. But you can't name me a quarterback that did it with nobody. Peyton Manning had Marvin Harrison and Reggie Wayne. Drew Brees, for a long time, had Marcus Colston, who had a good run there. Now, again, he's probably the one guy that you could probably say, but he also had Sean Payton, and he had Jimmy Graham, and he had a great running game, and he had Greg Williams and that defense over there. You know, great quarterbacks. Kurt Warner had the greatest show on turf, and he had Larry Fitzgerald. Matt Stafford had Calvin Johnson, Megatron, and now Puka Nacua and Devontae Adams. Aaron Rodgers had Devontae Adams. Patrick Mahomes had Tyreek Hill. John Elway had, again, not that I know the Denver Broncos. I'm sure they had great wide receivers there too. Brett Favre had Javon Walker and Donald Driver and Sterling Sharp. The Broncos had Shannon Sharp. They had a receiving tight end who was basically a wide. You can't name me guys who have thrown the ball in the league and not have great wide receivers. So the idea that you could do it without a reliable target, to me, is a fallacy. And getting rid of A.J. Brown, who's Jalen Hurts' most reliable target for the most part, does not make your team better. The reason A.J. Brown was pouting this season was because objectively the offense stunk. And it wasn't necessarily the scheme. The philosophy of the offense stunk. Super conservative, not aggressive. And again, these aren't my words here where I'm talking about the offensive scheme. I know a great buddy of mine. This is not to put him on blast because this is more to accentuate my point on the offense because he is a Colts fan. My buddy Justin, shout out to you, big dog. You're the man at the Riding the Bench Colts podcast. Does great work over there. He called Frank Reich Sleepy Frank. And the thing that he would always tell me about that offense is that over time, that offense got very stale. And that was about a 4 to 5 year run with Frank Reich and that Indianapolis Colts team and that offense that got stale. I mean, if Nick Sirianni's running that same offensive philosophy and scheme, It's about a 4 or 5 year run here where it became stale. Again, I am not a big fan of the change per se in terms of getting rid of Stoutland and overhauling the whole system here, but I understand where they're coming from. And like I said in the beginning of the show, the whole change in the offensive skill sets and philosophy of the coaching staff, what you're going to do with Dallas Goedert and being able to pay him or ship him off plays a big role. The turnover in the offensive line potentially, in the coaching staff, wide receivers, all these things. You don't just get rid of great players. Not only that, financially, it doesn't even make sense for them to get rid of a guy who's 28 years old, going on to 29. Yes, he had a down year, 100%, and he was pouty, but, everybody had a down year. He still led the team in targets, and it's still, on his best day, is as good of a wide receiver as you're going to have in the NFL. So people think he's a cancer in the locker room. There's nobody in that Eagles locker room who sits there and believes A.J. Brown is a problem. Nobody. Nobody in that. Hell, the guy who complained more about this offense was Devontae Smith. He just did it behind closed doors. The only one who had cachet enough in that offense to be able to express his opinions and be able to take the beating was A.J. Brown. That's just fact. That is the contention in that locker room. There is nobody in that locker room. Hell, even Jalen. There is nobody in that locker room that wants A.J. Brown gone. He makes that team better. 1,000%. So be careful what you wish for. Don't trade A.J. Brown. It's a bad idea. Terrible, terrible move. And I think the move that they're going to make is getting rid of Dallas Goedert and replacing him with either a tight end or potentially Johnny Wilson, or going to a 2-back set, something along those lines, to run the Midwest offense. So that's my take on that. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Is it a mistake for them to potentially trade A.J. Brown? Should they keep him instead of Dallas Goedert? Or vice versa? Should they get rid of A.J. Brown and keep Dallas Goedert and run it with Devontae Smith as number 1? And then have to pay Jahan Dotson as backup wide receiver, or potentially going to the draft for a receiver. That'll be an interesting topic for another day. But for now, that's the show. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. We appreciate your time here at the Riding the Bench Eagles podcast. Hey. Thank you so much for watching the Riding the Bench Eagles podcast. If you want to continue to support the channel, please hit the like and subscribe button down below. Also, check us out on Instagram and TikTok at Riding the Bench Eagles Pod. We're also on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, you name it, we're on there. Thank you so much for listening, and please join us next time here at the Riding the Bench Eagles Podcast.